where you can plug something in, there's a switch. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, you could
We never talked about it.
You could turn the...
Hammered it out until it's like as big as, I don't know, a human torso. The koalas. It's possible by Wallace Point. I've never, it's just the best place I've ever stayed, man.
Well,
I mean, it's standing is now a cranny.
Yeah, sometimes you have to lube me up to get me out.
Hey, I'm
jellyfish or something, I don't know.
They bite you and it does, they're wonky.
They go like this. Yeah.
Like, and by the strictest, you went up to Brisbane.
If you're gonna be like, this is an incredible super of...
Do that.
No, it was my nook, actually.
But
it was, she put her knee in my nook. Well, let's explain how this happened, because first of all, it was
weird.
She's actually going to, she sees that I have to signal.
How do you did it
from Oklahoma. It's kind of where we sort of landed in terms of the way that we speak. People, a lot of travel agents, including the one
cranny, like all of that, all
is in the way that they are intended to be experienced. Fast. I had to take a dump. Was another way of saying that.
Shut up.
And the last day,
I'm ready to go home.
Kind of only consensus, the consensus between the two of us and the consensus month, but it was
just palm trees. There were all types of trees that grew right up to the beach.
Receiving end of that, but once
we had the experience of the tour Mythicality in
Marinara. No. Giant horse. He had a really fat horse.
Must have had a really
maybe shaver. It said shape
waters. Christy told me later that
Sinkant shirt
mixed with like a beaver in the face a little bit. And there's signs the switch above the outlet.
Able to make this a little bit of a work thing with the get into it. But if I can get myself into a cranny, I will nook it right up. You would not believe necessarily true. It's just some people don't express
of a good Dyson.
Oh, I missed a cultural presentation. It will be. Yeah, it got pretty heated. These is just.
How does that apply to the picture though?
And the first day, first of all, the adjustment going, everybody was like, I actually have control over. So in other words, it's very, and this is
that was super cool because there's
this is why we watched this movie.
Like, what? It's like he thinks his life is ending. Yeah. He certainly was acting like just like a lot, and
roll our jeans up and walk into the
guinea pig.
Really cute
gerbil.
Based on the pictures, of course, I haven't seen him in person.
We're literally walking along that top part, like the top picture. Let's take on the streets.
We might need to do a better job at.
Do not feed the wombats.
Well, and let me give you. There's some stuff that goes on. You can look at the Wikipedia. You can look at the controversy.
Made it really what?
Yeah.
You fell for it.
Yeah. We're up for months ahead of time, so just remember. I will say that I did have one. I think she was a score. It's kind of the difference. They do that. That's just part of the thing, and also the volleyball is something they give you when you go on the tour.
Well, if he would have responded with not, I would have been very happy. Hello.
In the analogy.
Parent me. I could figure out how to take a daggone photo on my own.
Into a space. She really latched on.
But I think
right into my, like almost 10 million people just between Melbourne and Sydney. So you're getting almost the. I kind of know about the reputation that furries have.
I got a story. I'll throw Lando under the bus.
Who would
off of a record-breaking length of vacation? Steal it. Go all the way.
Yeah. And then the food in general. Maybe not be critical and to point things out and to be judged. That there was a dedicated shaver outlet that said shavers only. Boat pulls up to the island and the guy is like, it's gonna be a wetland. Had a misunderstanding.
It was a highlight of my entire life.
Constantly picking things out of each other's pockets. So they want to continue that thing on with chicken parmesan. Okay, again.
But it's so good.
They didn't come up of the bridge. Absolutely. The entire time that you go all the way up to and it will start some comments. If
fire for it to be. You're on the beach. Just sprawl out and let it happen to you. And let Fiji happen.
Lag going will be okay. Your jet lag Did you guys do it? Was it a setup for real?
No. Budget. My TP budget's running low.
If you want to leave it plugged in,
a hair dryer that's malfunctioning
at home. And listen, we've been told that
had a great time. Christy,
I don't know. It was a little more New York, and I absolutely
has it. And then he starts playing a didgeridoo.
Oh yeah, you do. But what I'm saying is that.
But I don't.
Think about what happened with Like, think about.
Tell you,
That's why I was late to the bus.
it was land, and I'll be like, must have been a cranny.
That there's two guys and they're arguing against each other.
They don't even believe it. It's just they know they got to conjure up.
He had a couple of accidents.
I mean, you're feeding king.
Type of. They're chasing after her, thinking, "I've got to make this right." And this is when, driving you around or whatever, be shaken. And
So that snorkeling experience was amazing. All types of stuff, man. It was. You plug your stuff
that you can rely on.
He says, now I'm going to take a little video. The people were indeed nice. I didn't meet anyone who was currently a prisoner, at least because she's not at a combination, the 1-2 punch of Australia and then.
Anyway, I don't want to get into.
We devote so much time to chicken parm and receptacles.
And then just this piece of cheese. Thank you for posing.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be your muse. And to me, and we're going to snorkel together, and Mom's going to come with us, and then we're going to follow the group. And we gave what they call a speedboat, just a really fast boat that's still
on the screens. You're more likely to be just a generally. But we're like, when are we going to be in this part while on the tour? Yeah.
I mean, literally, you and I were the last ones on because I was waiting for you.
I sat in the
like ocean fleas, I think is what they're called.
Ocean lice is what they call it.
Ocean lice.
I don't let it feel like it's all that I'm wearing right now.
You did that? Look how angry you are. It's perfect, man. It's what everything I video from the family. It was my idea.
Setting the standard pretty high.
I wanted to be with you.
Moved.
I didn't realize how odd it was.
Kept taking pictures. And of course, and there's a
under the bus.
That's what I'm going to start adding that to Cranny Lube.
You could pay extra to feed.
Like I always want to when I see
Red's
something.
a Nook and Cranny man.
I don't know if it's because I'm so.
Didn't invent it,
right?
You know, they just said
the way that all the sports channels and all the sports shows have gone is 1,000 terms. That's where that picture of us in the onesies together.
And then you start to.
That's what the story is.
They stole that and put it along there, but it helps. You know, you got all dead, and it was weird. Everywhere. We bite. You look any direction you look.
Who have been on the bridge. And
yeah.
So
Benedict Cumberbatch. No. At least they didn't tell me that.
And we were in
It feels good, man. I'm so glad we did it. Our kids don't kangaroos, then there's a wombat, you know, you don't look at some at one point
the office area. Had a lot of mythical beasts who didn't even know be on this onesie with all these hooks, and then you hook into this
because once you pick an order that you're gonna latch on and go on.
Let me tell you right now
as a seam, but
lots of those
better, and they serve it in bars.
And you go in there and you get this giant. Just word to the wise though, you don't want to necessarily.
We went to Fiji after going to Australia.
Up too much. I didn't get to go. Make it seem worse than it was.
Mainly you and your son, but time it was. We had a great time to breeze. One of which I think was.
But I said something that she took as
explore the question. Well, because longest vacation we've ever had. Out. I'm just gonna get warm. I'll come a few hours to then have your interest piqued about other things that you can come back.
I want to take a short break to let you know that Ear Biscuits
prioritize. I know you do a good job of this for the most part, just to continue the conversation.
Advertising. So, and so we went on this tour.
Well, you're welcome. And just that on its own would have just.
I'm gonna flip around. This all
calculation that went into. I mean, the planning
dripped into this. Tension is the tension is increased.
You're on the edge,
and so now you're on the edge.
Just Musk kind of
things about things. I'm not going to tell you guys what you can't do. There are no rules. We just these guys in when it gets really weird. I gotta say, I am
tears of joy.
I am so happy that you both enjoy
continent.
It's just us, and so I was like, I got something in my cranny. I got to get out real.
Seeing and then going light.
Yes, and
with just they would say things like, yeah, but it's so much more pronounced in person. That's what they would.
Because that would be absolutely incredible.
The time of our lives, but we love you and we're only thinking about you. That's Mariah.
You're being hypnotized by your own feces.
Meat pies.
Anyway, thank you all.
That almost sounded creepy.
For coming out.
Take a picture together.
We actually
he fought tooth and nail
picking the specific place.
And
they escorted us to that and the island that we stayed on, probably half the size.
But it's tall and a flat white, which if you've been to
Yeah, it isn't that she doesn't care.
Your accents. You sound so American. And we're like, well, don't you listen? Don't you? That made it worse.
I am still out of sorts.
Yeah, you gotta stop. And so we did. I mean, of course, we didn't want to, but I'm just gonna splay like when we're not on the show or something. You know, it's just we would really let our hair down.
We're just being
yeah.
This is what. So,
well, you assume that she cares none, just because.
Here's honestly what I'm thinking at the time. I'm like, Link is super
at first.
Well,
and of course, we'll cheat.
Well,
because we ain't got time to actually do it.
They're good.
Yes, we have confirmation that her house.
Oh yeah, you know about that.
I actually thought it was really cool when I saw it. I was impressions of the
cut up this whole marketing thing where they're competing against each other.
Looking.
She does not exhibit any sense of urgency or concern or neighbor, and you don't know the people that you're walking past on the street.
Mm-hmm.
People just, as she has pointed out multiple times, and I've always wanted to stay on.
Mad with the paper. I
guess
petty
criminals like to have their hands blown.
Flush the other way, but I did not note that.
Recommended though, absolutely fascinating. Is on a hot
there
plate
with you, man.
and is sitting there in minutes to post that. Now, first things first, game show
with elevation changes like that.
But the interesting
that are designated, it's cool to put what some people would call
talking about us, and you could hear the things that they were.
Yeah, and then they would
saying.
pass Christy, and she would
between our wives and our kids. Is that they stick their hands into things without knowing it and take things out of them.
Makes them comfortable.
Or at some point, it's part of the dink it and what do I have on? But it starts when we travel. Like, and I guess LA's the same way. It's got two different names. It's about 10 miles from that's the way it is in Los Angeles. But there just really was to watch more of our daily show, Good Mythical Morning. Click the playlist on the left,
and don't forget to click.
We were just doing math.
It'll be fine because of what we built. Dated my problem. Recommend going to Melbourne.
Every place we went is great, but I think the business
first.
time you have got to do some sort of incredible
use once again.
And we also, because you need to tell that story about Lando, but on my device,
right? Because then when
and since you encouraged me to thank you for
back at this point, and then as things were built up, they made these narrow streets.
And I'm not gonna go tell Jenna to say something to him. So my ego sets in a little bit, and I'm like, well,
man, ways to mimic different, but we saw a few of these that the water hits the beach. The way that it's
built, is smaller. Than
gushing about it.
You can't have these expectations, but right or wrong, those shows.
One more spot.
Those shows.
The instructions, and I'm sitting beside land
ocean to get onto the island because there was not a dock. I mean, that's how island this. That covered the whole thing, and it was just one of like 4 different kinds you could get at this pub.
They got and then so we found ourselves talking about how clean the public everything
there would be.
The funny thing that we heard multiple times that
of all the celebrities, Sandy Beach,
like 2 foot of water,
and short of murder and like stealing horses, because they're constantly snatching little insect sea turtles and big fish, and it was awesome.
You cried in your.
They don't seem to understand
to listen to an
the excursions
top slots.
A little wonky.
But above, you know what, Lando?
We're going to talk about some specific things that happened on the trip.
A proper one for years, I feel like. If you're into food, a tree that contained her nuts. See the look on his face. He just made the decision. He was like, screw you, Dad. I am not certain. I've never been on a 3-week vacation. And
basically, it's giant rock formations that used to be a part of it.
And the whole group is like,
not a lot bigger, but it is.
More people smoke.
Absolutely. Power from going. This is how electricity works. It's like a.
There's like at one point. It was like a trap door.
A little man, but it's a European style. So basically, the street do that trip. City's that big,
right.
and we're talking about foot. What me and you have talked because you can walk and then you look down
of car streets, but then still have plenty of room in the middle for trains.
Sometimes we might
hurt, and this is understandable. But how is this a problem?
And so what we say.
Kill you.
Apparently,
they would execute you as the word I should.
14 hours early. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like
get up. That hashtag ear biscuits, and also just like We have never in the history of
The moral of the story is we should begin committing petty crimes.
scenic routes. It's pretty awesome. And then, you know, I mean, they're not like in shackles anymore.
But also, we love down under again. I like that. It was a good recovery.
Thank you.
Bring it down to the under.
We went to Brisbane, but I think
Chicken.
if you take it to go, they put it in a freaking what appears to be a pizza box. A furry convention photo shoot.
Yeah.
Which
Felt completely.
turns out they bite.
Well, you know how like when you got something plugged in and you're like, I know that there's power. I was late to the bus, man. I was late to the bus because you had told me ask like beach with the palm tree is.
That it was a great.
Right.
But we talking about the restrooms.
Yep. To take a boat trip to the island for a day.
The cleanliness of Australian public restrooms, and that should say it all.
You know, there's a combination of that particular group of people and the venue.
It was
Right.
more streets that were like, I mean, everything's really spaced out.
Island that we stayed at, and you can see it basically as you're on the beach right there in front of the hut that we were.
Like frantic level that you are.
Well, I tell.
And he starts just saying, I gotta get out of here. And I'm
Middle of a fight with your husband, that way. So I was like, oh, hopefully this is not something worse. Turns out it was something. We went to New York, and now we're back again.
myself thinking, you know what?
We'll edit it out. I apologize.
If this podcast good maths.
I mean,
And
me neither.
when you goes Melbourne, Sydney, Brizzy, as they call it, Brisbane, advice when going to a city, it was worth suffering in the back of this bus, a keyhole.
Yeah, but what if the kid just flips it on it?
And that's where we got the chicken parm and did the show. Family didn't come, then we flew back to Sydney where
They're not 12.
how big the island is. You could hike all the way around the island in an hour. So it's pretty.
Apostles, it was a cool thing to say, 12 apostles. And she was like, you don't have to parent.
When we interact on an interpersonal
Or Fiji,
as
they say in Australia.
That's not exactly how they say it. It's
I've been able to decipher this based on I just sat there waiting for it to happen because I knew that it was gonna. That the way that we think.
I'd like to do scuba.
Yeah. Australian business that we should open up now.
Or just the tourism department.
Bring it down to the under.
Islands, because they're all protected by a barrier reef, it gets firmer.
Hold on, let me
when
say.
It's full of electrons.
Airports and hotels. Yeah. As opposed to what would happen if it was. But he's not. He doesn't. That's not his disposition. He's not. Sorry.
Like I just thought
We weren't next to each other. We had like our families kind of in between us, or at least a couple of kids.
Blue balls.
I want all that electricity pressure to build up in the wall, not minutes, definitely.
it was a little odd. I mean,
And then they would turn it around and show their math like they're in school, and then tuned to people just nearly killing each other about every single
walk, and it's just immaculate. A guy masterfully played the didgeridoo 11 feet in front of me, receptacle, after you've plugged.
Your wife came up.
Messing anything up. And okay, over a year ago.
He doesn't care because he's overcoming his fear. But no, you were just enjoying your check that site. You know.
I realized that side of your house here in America.
Yeah. That is on when plugged in and doesn't have a power switch. We traveled around the U.S.
The things we're talking
a thin
about.
piece of ham. It's part of. It is a problem, and I have contributed to it in our marriage. Smile in your picture so you can look back.
Thumbs up means everything's okay. Stay with the group so you can give the thumbs up if you're.
There's just something beautiful. They respect it so much.
But
really confident in the water. Like I was not confident about that. Man likes crannies. You got
shortened way. The instructor's saying, okay, so remember the hand signals. When he gets upset, sometimes he goes full throttle upset. Shining beacon. Yeah, I agree. I think
where they
not
with it.
Italia, stole it.
Italia came up with her to take the photo.
Lube or Nookaloo?
Well, they're both. It's yes.
And I really
the subject of the argument was
that just made it
go as far away from the boat as possible now, so that generations down the line, the great grandchildren.
Staying in this ocean, he didn't say that out loud. I think when you go, you'll get it, and I do. I think we got not ever, but on this trip. And
these conditions. I mean, as somebody who I feel
tag ear biscuits to continue to
on this memory, super wavy. As soon as the boat stopped,
I was really just enjoying myself. But
your jet lag,
not hard.
If you're gonna steal,
we knew we wanted to take.
So we're gonna talk all about our experience, but we do want to talk. I saw this from a distance.
But then
I couldn't hear the goodbye, but I saw the waving. I think it was a little under 2 weeks.
We spent a little.
Visited.
It was,
and I haven't been
a walking tour early. A little under 2 weeks there.
Yeah,
so
it's learned quite a bit about the history. It's petty crimes. And it's pleasant. Talked about this before.
Why are we qualified to?
With the idea for the Great Ocean Road, had recently visited California families, but we also took our.
Well, they're probably correct.
Over 300 islands.
Graffiti, but I call street art
or tagging
up there. It was. Just
you guys have got kids. You probably should do a resort on the mainland. You know.
On that tangent.
Did you also notice that in public places like airports?
Not featured.
There are. We did pass
there were
some.
A few,
There's
though.
some, but that's not.
Nice. We go in.
Sink it. It has a mouth on the front that says GMM on the top.
Island, which at low tide, just to give you an idea how into. Of course, we had to bring adapters because their plugs are wonky. And going into the outback, like I wanted
Tom Hanks because he's like
it's pleasant, man. It is.
Not. He responded not.
Wanted to take a photo. We took a little video because they said put.
Everything was great.
Piece of architecture.
It's beautiful. The bridge is beautiful. We'll talk about the bridge in a second.
Perfect conditions. Another world. So it was a first.
In bridge and make a video?
No, but it
actually a 10-person group because we took our and they would be like, well, that's water, not electricity. Totally different thing.
And the two shall not mix.
Because you're seeing the toilet go the other way. You didn't even think about it. We got it.
It's a great place, y'all.
Every place we went is great.
Man. I literally had to take, there was a great
certain pockets in the world outside of the U.S. And we had heard that Australia was one of
you know how to take the photo properly. I think this is a win-win that way. Or
go past us and then get close to you guys.
Yeah, because we were all walking the bite and the kangaroos, which we did. And then
saying this because of slits and different things.
Yeah.
But then we in between us.
Because they stole
it from Italia.
But they went all the way.
I mean, literally in one sense.
Which is enough for me, man. I'm in. Well, I'm in.
Petty criminals.
I mean, we would, at the beginning of each show, let's just take a second.
Uh-oh.
Christy comes over there. He did the exact same thing to her. I did decide that I think to fully conquer my fear of being underwater.
Cranny. Gosh, I shouldn't.
Everything we built. Like, we spent all this time
doing the show. We always... You never know what to expect. I mean, have mug that is.
The toilets do.
All right, I had to defecate. Sorry, I should have just said I had used the restroom. But I wanted the best place I've ever been. Like,
yeah.
But my expectations dropped. I started getting seasick because it was sort of like a side wobble kind of thing happening. And then when
I got my little drink from the bar that I just walked down there to, and then on the playlist on the right.
And she got a little.
Her husband was not
of the outback, of course. They kind of live on the coast, but you've got density.
Really nice place. I mean, that's quite a strange juxtaposition picture.
That we got great pictures, and my wife posted to her Instagram and Twitter, or at least walked off.
It was moved emotionally by how great the snorkeling was.
I was in the hotel room. I just turned on the TV. I was like, that gets you.
Bell, help me. Full disclosure, Ear Biscuiteer, because you're an inside. Where's Rhett? And I won't see him anywhere. And then I'll backtrack a block or two.
I like how you had already said down, so you wanted to not say athlete that you can think. Game shows on the 25.
Build rapport with our audience by talking about how great everything was. Arranged the coconuts and I'm linked this week to the guy. We're giving him the thumbs up. We're we calmed him down. You know what?
And having onto this bridge climb in the way that everything is hooked to your body, single span.
So at a certain point, you're
never getting back in the boat.
I've enjoyed it while I've been here.
Just one last thing about the petty criminals.
Give it to me.
Because you're talking about sticking your hands in things like holes and
in luxurious Fiji was just
reasons that New York is one of my favorite places on earth.
He snorkeled with us for the rest of the duration of that excursion. And then,
like how? Just a sermon now?
I mean, pass the plate, because we made the mistake one time in New York, this guy.
That's how it happened?
That's what they say. It's like, whoa, that's an amazing.
Their first batch of beans.
We're gonna steal it. We're gonna steal it.
They stole it and they made it better.
And And then I'm like, I'm getting kind of cold. I'm just gonna go out there on the sand, and
Yeah, so
I've got better things to do than social medias.
I'm in a diner just burning, and it's just poured out. That should be.
Well, I learned that from them. That's how they talk about it.
Well, it should be like a slogan for some sort of interaction with people at all levels. Came up as okay, listen, I can't. We're gonna be a place, but
We're gonna be at other places in the future. So
absolutely love getting into these small places. That's one of my wife. With a picture of my son holding his saw PCH and was like, I'm gonna do that in Australia.
But the 12 Apostles is like the destination.
There's a freaking door down there, and it looks like there's people down there having fun, and there's people above them. And
It's something that Spalding sells. You could go online.
Well,
you could
Wilson.
Correct. And then a mission Andy, where we
Yes,
see who can get
to make the right decisions about where we're going to park or if we're
But
going
how
to
is
take an
this
Uber. Guys just took us on a boat to this island. We're the only people on the island, and the kids just immediately.
art. We took a street art walking tour in Melbourne because they have street.
When you walk in, and there's all these to the Red MC Instagram account. That's mine. And me and you know when we're anxious about something. Did
We went and
4 times.
we went to a wildlife.
Can't miss.
It would come back to the boats, but that's just for you.
And listen, it isn't just. It's not this piece of meat. We were going to be alone.
I thought we were going to be alone. We're on a bus with too many people.
Thing was, like I had a really great snorkeling experience in Hawaii.
We started to have those conversations because you got to start protecting calendar time so it doesn't get.
Come down to the under and see what's on the TV. Does it work in that context? Typically an anxious person when it comes to a lot of things, but I get anxious.
Fill you in on because, we are fresh that our accents. All in all,
It was. I don't remember exactly what I said.
I'm talking about. I didn't know. I was like, I walk up to Wombat Station, actual place to go snorkeling, and I had upset and land.
Both. Is there an island
big
full
adventure
of
for you.
nooks and crannies that we might be talking about at least?
I get.
And that's we were able to kind of justify it. We were planning this trip. First of all, Fiji had watched the same episode poll that she was
Active sightseeing at Christy
Fijian. Christy says that.
So we got to feed him, which you can also do at Disney World. Yeah, like coming down, all of a sudden I realized every time we stop, he'd just kneel.
Now, I don't know when that's going to happen. A lot of people ask things like, well,
obsessed. She mentioned,
but maybe I could adapt.
Something that was weird.
Those technically aren't.
They shorten them in a happy way.
Right.
Like, oh, you went to Brizzy. Americans are too loud.
Yeah.
And so I was self-conscious. Audience. Supporting entertainment.
I've got all
supporting entertainment. So we went to technological advance. Like, this is brilliant.
More coffee.
Less fun.
I got even more seasick because the waves were that high.
And I start looking for.
Make a lot of people happy. Oh yeah, totally. I had great coffee in a little hole in the wall. Had great coffee, and it just. Yeah. I guess we'll have to check it out next time. It's a big country. It's on the other side. Hand rice.
They didn't have any paper products. I don't even think they have woods. Stereotype that.
Here, man. Dyson is from Australia. I don't know how this is going to go for the kids. Now you've got to have a strong opinion. In fact, like half of the shows on ESPN are based on the premise that come to America, and you know the old adage that if you've got a different
will come back. I mean, it's like the greatest.
And that first trip was not. There was nothing to see, man. There was really a tour, and the guy said,
"I don't kid about anything."
The guy that is technology.
Do you leave water in your garden hose outside? It was colonized by prisoners.
Yeah,
it's a really
because you're not
a bit more, and he got locked, namely.
Yeah. And laid out on the beach. I was like, this is a whole new thing. Interaction, like somebody at a restaurant or somebody that was in the sand,
Yeah, I think on the island, and there's like 60 individual huts at the height.
If she begins to have mini T-shirts that you can, so it was really legitimately off the grid. Now there was internet she actually told us later that she could see other. I think a lot of people on her Instagram account thought that we were just completely clueless and had
On the
and first,
other side of the continent.
and shout out to the crannies.
Yeah.
Like I'm really in, like when I see, and check this out, you basically were eating at the same place over and over again.
I just miss Jade so much. A tremendous.
I mean,
They were, but it was intense, and people would say again and again, "I'm like Aquaman." It's a growth experience for my entire family. Surf, so there's not surf crashing on any of these beaches. I was happy with the picture, yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, see, I have a problem, man. We actually continued to work through. They had great crowds. We didn't say we're going to go back. Island is.
But there's resorts on all of these little.
And Hawaii's incredible and beautiful. Literally, they had like a whiteboard.
I didn't
and there would
see
be a
this.
couple of numbers, and then you would have.
Go to tourmythicality.com if you want to see us in Toronto, Jersey.
Yeah, and those. The whole thing.
I
Well,
thought I was going to come an Aquaman. He's snorkeled. Not suspicious.
it seemed like it was a new man. Anyway.
Goodbye! 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 So I'm like, Lando, I'm going to jump in, then you're going to jump in.
I don't know, 15 to 20.
Enhancement. But it's to Sydney, pretty small. It's the only resort receptacle. I'm talking about a plug, like an outlet.
Yeah.
These like vertical ravines, and you can go on all these different.
Well, don't build it.
Unplug
That's
it.
science.
Because then when you unplug.
Easygoing people. Right? To subscribe on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else podcasts are available.
To watch more.
Caring, and I get mad at her for not caring about these things, and it just starts this tension that builds.
Well, it's funny that you said.
Find at mythical.store.
Go.
This is one of those situations.
Bracket.
Oh, those guys that are on YouTube. Let's take a picture of the two of us together, and there's a lot of isations in that.
And they talked about, they put on the session / dramatization of groundswell of mythical beast.
Dealing with like a personal, I mean, it was a combination of having abstained from
A picture together.
anyway, a night.
Filming Buddy System.
That was based on
always
research.
been.
It was incredible. I would like to go back in the summer. Lots of people said go back in the summer.
The wind was up, and we went to the outer.
I'm ready to go home.
I'm ready.
Wife and your wife were watching this whole thing happen.
Oh man, that just interest to the 2 days before where we signed up for our first amazing and artful and really cool.
But it wasn't a can't miss. It wasn't a can't.
Minutes of an altercation.
It drew blood.
Like, I'm talking about on the pad off my phone. I just couldn't bear it. I was like, hey, let me show you. Worked in reverse.
But it's the response was interesting. It's just like, oh, it quickly breaded, slammed down. Gotta be going out there. Then
maybe which were akin to what you, I don't know, what you might. We didn't get this until
we're like going into it right now, and there's some switch on it that's keeping the
power. Gush about my hometown, and
I definitely recommend going to Australia. We're gonna go back at some point. To finish that sentence.
No, he did conversation with us. I'm trying to price tight quarters for your hands. Like I feel like I'm really touching the stuff that everyone else is touching.
But they had different
about Lando because this is the first time.
It's much more eloquent than what I just said. So she took this. We've only ever
that Dyson is from Perth.
Now,
except just a flat little layer of it.
Happening with Link.
You think I was never coming back?
Because coffee messes up my stomach and my skin and stuff. Mm-hmm. I still like coffee more. But in the rotation to feel validated.
We don't need high altitude validation.
I mean, I've got cranny lube. I don't
name of the island, but it's the name of the resort on the island, which is the only resort on the island.
Locke got bit by a wombat. There, but
we flew directly there, but you can't fly directly back when Fiji is in the way.
Right. You can coffee and been drinking mostly. How excited? Think about how excited we were when their reputation in some circles.
You're also not condemning it.
That's Melbourne. Was the best.
They got really good
for you
or mixing
without
with gas
any care.
Fumes at like a convenience store.
And it's just
I will
place and not have the coffee, and ask a stranger to take your photo.
The island called Castaway Island, which is basic. I don't know if that's the proper name.
And then you set me up, man. Hold on. And shout out to Link Lamont, who does not activate. Obviously, a lot of people from a lot of different places. You can actually see the real Castaway Island. What had happened was You talk your love.
The bar's got to come back down.
Yeah. She got up
latched
on me
on
like
with her body.
like I was a.
See, it's like, yeah, you redo. Talking about all different types of birds.
Kind of become a-holes, and it's just a part of the culture. I mean, that place. I want to do. I don't care how bored the kids get.
In a suit. He was the photographer. A photographer.
She got a little fresh with. She said, always remember, no matter what you feel like, or even if you're in the middle part of the world another time, we're going to be flying back. Oh, yeah.
It's part of their code. You got to turn on you go into the next section, and there's like wombats going around, and everybody's in full head to toe.
Can drive a car down them, but you don't anymore.
Talk about.
Give it to you in the way that you want it, and it doesn't.
Well, again, and we're talking about prisoners here.
It was a combination of the fact that it was a small place and
a walking tour.
And
I got the kids to say, "Hey, Mom, miss you. Wish you were here."
Nice and easygoing person.
Well, they would.
So the table and gave us our drink and gave us our food, and we had that judgmental or critical. She was, but she was with her husband. You don't really know that your name. I don't need to be in the experience multiple cities, and we got to be there for an extended period of time.
Yeah,
that helps. Cool. Bitter, and we're like, where is Link? And you were just gone. Like you were the longest single arc suspension. So to see people just pleasantly discuss things. Dyson is Australian for vacuuming, isn't that? And saw the
Pacific Coast Highway.
Yeah, and there's just some stuff there.
There's a sign that says, "We bite."
Where
everything
I've got to learn to. It was a sports channel, and there
it's one huge arc.
It is
arch.
It is because I'm kind of like a giraffe.
But it was worth it because it was so beautiful. And let me tell you, we had a good time. I had taken photos with our family, and it was not this summer.
Essential dad who gets the family to the airport
off at the wall, so it drains all of its power.
Yeah, they're probably
kind of like a garden hose.
Coffee in general.
We also went to Fiji.
Yeah,
Fiji. We should move to that. But so we did our shows.
Well, so I was getting like my first latte in.
We had to really. I love the arrangement of going hard for sites
that I am concerned
of your mouth now. It's a way to be guided for, which is something we're not. We have. We get just. There's a cliche that they think out, and what we learned from the walking tour was that the architect who planned it, he just
he's a social media guy. He signs everything with Hanks, with
and then
X.
he responds.
We don't appreciate it either.
No,
I mean the thing
I
is
just
that
said I appreciated it.
No.
Okay,
we went to now it's called Castaway Island, and a lot of people next year we don't know what we're gonna do. Yeah, it depends on the human, probably a child.
Receive conversational volume than we do. Is on the
I
don't know what Cranny is, but when you get in there, I'm like, we've got a lot to. I'm not going to respond to that. All I'm going to say is that it was just I got what I came for.
Exactly.
And jumped in and having immediately come back in the boat, scramble back in, and out there, and then we start jumping out of the boat, and I'm concerned. And they to the public restroom. It's nice. I mean. We were do
something as soon as the plans are something.
Once you're done with the hairdryer, you leave the hairdryer on, but you turn it. But I do think when we fighting.
Now that I think about it, it was your freaking fault because I had made network all day, and he literally was in America, which we won't even rehash it because you can see that on our little Fallon segment.
There in the under, who came out to our show. It was great. We'll talk about it, but that's just how they talk. In a happy family times, and then once it's like. Totally swimmable, just
and set that standard that in order for there to be
got to scale some
tour stops and staying in
unless you're sleeping.
And we had signed up first of all, they do have supposedly the amount of debate in the comment section. Legend has it. But she got so mad. And she just apparently people who commit petty crime.
For that.
Yeah.
It's perfect from the outskirts of Melbourne. He was really building it up. And he was like, I don't know what you did, but I know you did something wrong. And she was continent of Australia. I think there's this
bridge, I don't know, in the world. Whatever the type of bridge that it is the longest, as is evidenced by the fact that it took me
And I'm talking about everywhere we went, and his life was ending. But he thought the instructor was saying, if you want to get back in the boat, wave goodbye.
It's in a...
Saying, we should do this, we should do that. And Jenna kept bringing up this bridge. It was on our Instagram.
You sense that is happening.
Your Biscuits, click on, you can have both lanes vote for. So then I'm sitting on my lounge chair and I'll just see him wedged in what?
Don't know.
Boy, that sounds...
Oh, no, see, we had an initial conversation.
Oh.
That was about something I had, like, what am I missing? Like,
I always...
It says Dinkin' and Sinkin' on the back. It's just one. Yeah, apparently, if your ancestors committed petty crimes on Earth, but...
Go home.
Founded reputation? I don't know anything. Your problem.
My addiction to coffee. At a cultural presentation, but it was...
And they're building up in that hairdryer about to explode.
Hey, hairdryer getting blue.
Flat white. It was absolutely incredible. And they know they got two. Done like a week at a time. And because we were his Instagram account, ever. And that's why I put him so into it that there was a part of me that was like,
I couldn't tell. There's the scene where he tries to, in our life, he's probably gonna bring up an island.
Well, the funny thing but you just
looking for Locke because he's the best candidate.
It's just they're all so pleasant.
It's pleasant.
I gotta admit, I didn't continue watching.
We're gonna figure out is us.
I corrected her about, and she got mad at me, and
taking the longest vacation we've ever taken after not taking one for
hand up, and it says
later. We found it that way. Appears to be like
anxiety at all about these things.
That's the main thing they got down there. It's Starbucks, whatever. I'll get one. Well, that's what him also meant. Scream repeatedly.
Basically, a latte without the foam.
Without the foam, which I'll do it. And I gave her my phone.
She gets up and puts it.
Like if it's like, don't take a picture of that.
Something, and it's nooks and crannies, man. They almost called New York that.
Sometimes I'll be like,
yeah,
it makes a big deal.
Maybe somebody who...
I'm going to make a big deal out of it.
Maybe somebody who likes to travel. And I was uncomfortable.
Let's not say she, let's say the squirrel. Because I coast, which is absolutely beautiful.
He's not kidding, because we came from, and listen, I haven't been back to bridge climb. I don't know if you guys have put us in the road.
To make the streets as wide as they were.
He had a thing, and you're literally, we went in the peak of winter, which first of all is really mild in Australia, at least where we, but the game shows were, I gotta say, and that's why we chose this place. And so, as they say, like kind of landed on it. And so what I end up doing is I get mad at her, and she gets mad at me for care.
I'm so proud.
Lots of those furries were mythical beasts.
I'm for doing that. We'll speak at you next week.
So, and this was great. In fact, I think that the coral side of it and like the
sanitation.
The main thing that we were struck by so the first thing we did, we get on the island and first of all, now
we walked up to the fountain at the nearest park. We just strolled
on an island that small where I felt. I'm happy.
But
I'm happy as I am. I don't.
Yeah, along with me up the bridge climb.
I highly recommend. It's pulled under by a shark, or we can't help him. We're the most understated everything about it.
That's why. And I'm like,
we with our kids this year because fear, and you were like, I'm gonna, as opposed to
cool people in full body suits. Fur
and like out into the laneways.
So there's no car at all.
I don't know.
So cool. It just feels like across the continent. Goodbye to everyone I love.
I was like, I'm not gonna go to this Australia, and I follow a couple of Instagram accounts.
Put it on Facebook because they like to promote the bridge climb, I think. And we said
their pose when sleeping while traveling. It was just three guys sitting around talking about like this, and they were just all with a piece of cheese on it, and then slathered with when we work with people that we haven't worked with before, and we don't.
The literal height of Sydney, I was only thinking about.
So when I was like,
it was my favorite trip because we.
Did you see the
Christy a message? We were old, but don't worry, people on Earth now.
Yep.
So. This trip was a culmination of, it could have been like a year and a half ago. We were talking about,
but we decided to do the bridge climb for the rest of this trip.
And then you catch up with us and exciting.
I'm not going to use the term boring. If Spalding sold it, that would kind of sort of go against the. And what she agreed to is to just not many people get
14-hour flight.
Apologize, but then I got mad because she wouldn't accept my apology, and we're like mad at each other, and
together. I mean, we just bonded. It was amazing. And we were both there for it.
Yeah.
Together.
Have a device.
Dramatization where the guy, thank you for choosing this.
The stopping in Fiji.
Brilliant.
And our style of humor appeals to time, which.
Well, this was Jenna's thing, because like I was the one making all the things. American kids deserve it if they put a key in, but Australian kids only deserve it if they're smart enough to then
they have lube on hand.
Nook lube. Is it cranny? An event in my relationship with my wife. It was just a bright safety. So that it's probably so a kid just can't think it's like
only 6 or 7.
Yeah, I bet this is gonna get me laid. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, cool.
Another day trip out to the Blue Mountains. It was freaking beautiful out there. There's like, they have like a cute way of like saying things. So
they the top of the bridge
because
and all the way back down.
Because we should clarify that
we've been there.
We spent it.
Miss.
I would not have missed it if I were me or you. But you did miss
like fish curry, the very first meal.
Yep.
He's in the hammock, but that's
I
cannot sleep at night,
and I'll get like nauseous for no reason.
Yeah.
In Australia, they must not.
Yeah.
Think about it. We did see wood of her snorkel. And then after that,
I watched Shepard watch cartoons.
The circular icon snork. I can't speak anymore. Let's just end it. When we signed up,
seaside of Freedom,
he's queasy.
Is it because
we were high up? It was scary at first.
That throughout the trip,
at the round table of dim lighting,
shavers only at the airport and at the hotel. There was a shaver only,
but
like 30 go on. The stuff clearly what it is that we were there to do a show. So we learned our lesson.
So not at the world. I'm going down with the ocean lights.
Love New York, but it can feel a little bit like it was your fault.
I didn't know you were already.
Islands.
Well, you gotta stop. I mean, he's 8. The people are not.
You know, with the way I.
Because I would think it would have been like.
It sounds boring.
I roll,
and we have to literally take our shoes off.
For the first time, I was introduced into.
But I was like, on the off chance that what happened with the Fiji trip, and
which is,
that's how we talk.
Let's take a scene. We only spent 1 day in Brisbane.
Coming back will be the worst you've ever experienced. You don't have to. The thing is now I'm beginning to see. I'm really into nooks and crannies, and I'm really into islands, and I got to experience. Talked about how you have a little bit of a phobia with the water and like going and holding your breath and going under the.
Nugget. Either way, you've still got a hairdryer full.
Australian crowd was, and then
she was like, "I'll."
You were gonna go back next year. Don't.
You've been so snobified.
That is.
Start swimming with us, and I'm like,
that we went to. It wasn't like that. Picturesque. Just know that you know. So
tight.
I don't know when we'll be back. And I don't know exactly. Well, you guys seem to kind of indicate that
they're having fun.
You know, everybody's doing. We met a lot of mythical beasts. we met
mild. It still got windy, but there wasn't. Do what they say. We're gonna all stay together. Because he had this nervous look on his face, especially having
in your nook.
He enacted the discovery of the didgeridoo, like wind
attached to this wire the entire time, and you.
I didn't see it happen, but I saw blood. Yeah. Like I saw
12, but because there were 12 apostles.
Why am I going to end highly rated walking tour
amongst the best mythical beasts in the world? Live there. I mean, they're in a second, but first, can't remember what they call those.
You didn't call them.
Notice that Link strikes a very particular.
Foam sucks, if you ask me.
And
all right, this is done really well in other parts of the world.
They probably stole known
aggressive, but then you kind of.
A full smile for the picture, and then
for a selfie.
Soon a whole lot of places, but
started waving and yelling.
Boat, and we had all our luggage. The boat just pulls up to the. The Fiji attitude towards everything is kind of like, I'm not going to give you any warning. Okay, so we're
wildlife in the outback.
With the didgeridoo?
With the didgeridoo. Wilson. Because landed one. And it would taste great.
And it would taste good.
It been exhausting. So the fact that we had, and I'm like rubbing his leg where he got bit. I'm like, it's going to be fine. They'll stop you, get used to it.
I honestly do not remember exactly what.
Did such intense sightseeing in that bus.
And that's why.
Cool. But if you want to.
And then we realized there's no dock.
We check into the hotel and then we walk a block and we're like, we're in the middle of
I've seen this on Instagram millions of times. I got to go
and ridge climb, and I kept saying, well, I don't know.
shirt thing, and so any little thing like that will just could set one of us off.
Yeah.
But we
Station on Twitter. So let's do
have to do on your whiteboard, like how do you get from this number to this number? I would have thought that you would have. Welcome to Ear Biscuits. I'm Rhett. A couple of 100 yards away from Instagram, we got we were like, let's come up with a post that we can do because they've got like
how different they.
Anyway, I follow a couple of
and Lando jumps to me and gets this look on his.
You want the headroom and the composition.
Yeah.
You want this to be a special moment. Set this up.
Thank you for saying that.
We went on this. I want to live like Robinson accent that you're immediately interested.
Face, and he's like in pain, and then I actually start getting bit.
Then
I ask someone that long.
I mean
and of course we got into doing the tour dates. So let's see in London. I've never walked around.
I haven't. In
Who cares?
going west, really.
3 hours.
West, really what it's known for. But the travel agent that we were using actually was like, well,
it must have been like a law.
Bolts.
They had air fins. They had it all, man.
Again, this
On the leg. It turns out then we booked a day trip out of town.
so far from it, but
Plural.
yeah, I basically just going on.
Right.
Might be somebody who's directing us or doing something, and it's just like a text from.
We may have implied with the photo that we
Like look at him go. I was like, look at him go. He's deep.
the meet and greet after each of the 3 shows.
Of which one I didn't get the gravity of this in the way that we do, and it's not necessarily a beautiful place. I mean, you've got
They got this thing called the op.
There's lots of reasons that you could share this particular episode.
Thank you.
Who came out to the shows on the tour of Mythicality because
These things called laneways, which
that we used didn't have a assistant Jenna with us.
and there was a lot.
Perthians who
sorry,
came
we-
to the show and complained about
Well, and the thing that we read was that,
outlet on and off.
which is tough when you're plugging in your adapter and the amazing, man. Like, I didn't anticipate that watching
He figures out clean. is
what was I talking about?
You're talking
No.
about how clean they were.
hand dryers.
Oh,
next 30 people to agree,
What?
then
Perth?
you also can
Oh,
say you were right.
Perth, the place we'd built.
For me in that way. In sharp
I respond. Or he responded not. I'm using 2,000, like 2,000 people say Fiji.
Oh yeah, you're right. They say Fiji.
Fiji of some shit. I don't know. I saw the way she was looking at you the other day.
They started pushing these things called flat whites, which I didn't know what it was. I was just okay. Stop.
Thin layer of marinara sauce, then a piece of ham. You know that my wife and I, Caruso, on an island that I can walk around.
And then the huts were like in there. It was just really and crannies. It was a high point in the podcast.
And my wife
had nothing to do with a screen.
My wife went with me. Out while on vacation. There's a special thing in appealing to Americans.
Oh yeah.
But
I didn't know if it. It's like I'm
a good
sleeping,
question.
dude.
Mental and let this tension build. It's a really incredible operation. Sydney's different than Melbourne. It's a little bit bigger at this point, depending on how you define one. And they've fallen down. Like a couple of them have fallen down in the past.
So in stark contrast to that, you look down from huge. No.
That we used incorrectly think that the island that we stayed
Here. Man, they are really. And then, after I've done all that, you got to remember to also flick on
the beautiful thing.
in Fiji.
You got to stop somewhere. I mean, you got to
mean-
get gas. Actually, you don't have to. You can fly direct. So it'll heat up and be like a warm bath the next time I cut it on. Yeah.
Well, you're talking about both sides. We sell merch, and you help make.
To give you a sense of time.
Well, anyway, we get to the 12 apostles, and let me
Picture, she
I wasn't pushing it, but every time I turn around, which are god awfully huge gerbils. I'm talking about like a pig.
that you.
Lube versus cranny lube.
Your favorite is Nook Lube. My favorite is Cranny Lube.
From nothing with this nook and cranny thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you decimate. But it just just people kind of roll their eyes. They just don't get it. But dink it and sink it, sure.
I've got on the
Looks
dink
good.
it and as like a personal exercise, and that's why Sydney is different than Melbourne.
you should
see my perspective on this because I get and let me just say
we went on the Great Ocean Road.
it right now
on the bridge.
And we did the twilight, so we saw
The sunset.
the sunset at the peak. They were just so. And I was so upset I didn't bring my shaver.
Well, now I have a reason to go back.
Think about it, but I'm saying. But I gotta say that it tuned right into that.
There's a shaver outlet?
Either that
You
or
could
dead.
tell.
Yeah.
Because I'd been
I
there a
mean, you
while.
had not moved in Woody, which I learned all about and am fascinated by. A lot like rugby, but different. And it was like reaching for the phone to take the picture. One is basically dedicated to all this stuff on the Great Ocean Road. And so I'm saying in general, I can be critical.
Blowing through a hollow log that made a noise, and then he picked it up and started learning how to play it. And then
Made up. And you know what I told her? You know what I told her right before you
come out more when we're not in like a performance mode. Like nice things are staying nice.
I don't know if it's
Got some good traction on Instagram, which is really talking now. But then we teamed
like 20, 30 years and not remember the argument or whatever. It was about the parts of a trip that I feel that
I guess
to hear this ear biscuit in its entirety and make sure you these photos popping up because it's over for you. You're never
TP. I need to.
Oh, gosh.
My butt.
Anyway, Dyson everywhere.
And you know, like
all
the
kinds
air,
of things.
The air blades, like you put your. I
look on my face in the photo. I know about
we left Australia thinking we would.
majority of those people live in the major cities. It was also the fact that we got to.
Then we went
Because it was
with someone who has yet, which, by the way, they stole from us very early on. Like I'm talking day one.
what cities we'll go to, but we had such a good time. We have every.
I didn't sense anything.
Don't
was
ask
happening.
either one of us. My responsibility for all these things and for her to kind of go along for the ride.
And they paddled
Right.
with it.
Yeah. Well, actually, Tom Hanks shows up.
He shows up and he does it.
He lives in it. I'm obsessed with islands, but I like see these postcards.
We flew into Fiji on the mainland, and then we took they say
Fiji. It's just the ingredients for family conflict.
What
They ought to win without a doubt, but yeah, I'll say that.
the facts, but they wouldn't yell. They'd be like, "Good."
And the whole argument that we might be making that Australia is the greatest place on earth, that's holding on to in a tornado. And
Well, let's say birds.
Well, maybe ours are wonky. Ever thought about that?
Nah, there's a wonky. They
Okay.
go sideways. Applied it.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
You misapplied it. It has nothing to do with that.
Someone who works at Ridge Climb,
Might happen to.
us not going to Perth. I mean,
I'll be in nook and cranny because take you on these. They've taken.
so I just kind of didn't say anything at all. And she was like, life hack or tip or the day or whatever.
For our first snorkeling expedition, we had to take. Well, I'm not in. I mean, I don't have a costume.
You that you're in, and also how we're doing as performers. That kind of people like see us arguing, and then they start.
That she started crying and started. Photos we took today. Oh, here's a little video.
Yeah, so you could go up to like this restaurant and get on the internet, but the internet was like slow and not reliable.
Like tried to feed the wombat.
Just to talk about this volume right here, but then there was a game. I keep a tube of cranny lube in my back
I'm
pocket.
nooked up.
Shall not mix.
Well, I'm sorry, I sent us off you. She was like, flush good.
And they just as a fashion statement. Problem because
Tack on the fact that a little over 2 weeks there.
well, I think
Real loose with
it's
it.
so nice to meet y'all.
You're just such a good.
I told her, I said, I am not going to say one judge, and I want to be like, what'll it take? Think of has been
Benedict Cumberbatch
has been on this bridge and taken a picture. Now,
goodbye to Australia and the rest of the world.
one lane, and there are lots of cobblestone.
Lots of cafes.
And the cafes like have their seating,
rest-
and then there are these pillars that we were told that at no time were there.
Right back to my seat. Next thing I know, and I see blood. Don't see lock, and I'm like, and then up here, you gotta lube me out of that bridge climb. And then we finally did.
Getting out of that boat in those conditions, like I was really uneasy.
Yeah.
But at least the part
Sucks from here on out.
he's not gonna like that. It seemed like, well, first of all,
Melbourne first.
yeah.
We had a friend who was just
Wikipedia page. I'm not going to go in. We're so high, and we talked about this. We talked about this on a previous podcast about you following even before I knew we were going to go. I don't need.
Well,
I don't need your system.
As I've already established, I got
Where there were There were like large, like I was stranded,
And
right?
you think it might be the huts on practical piece of advice. Take the western coast of the United States.
Yes.
Everybody's using stuff and no one's
Things, it's boring to me. Last row in a smaller seat that was
horrible.
also lower, but it doesn't matter.
horrible.
She was in a place where she could see couples.
always be thinking about it.
Did it work?
Kurt, she's my.
It wasn't that great, was it?
It was great. It was so great, Rhett. And
Were not a. The weather is.
great tested that.
Give me the bird. I can't remember exactly what happened. See, I have travel anxiety, in a way. In the U.S.,
This reef and like pristine,
large and becomes impersonal, and
nice. But I'll say for a cuss, the PCH highway along the.
yeah. But basically, it was like a San Francisco trolley.
Also put at the end of things.
Well, no,
in
no,
Fiji.
In Fiji, I'm talking about the way Australian. Incredible. Now, one of the things I saw when we got to the place was that this is
amazing beautiful more of a patched up the kids who needed patching up, buddy. You had courage and you.
he's dealing with his phobia, and he's so far like if he gets something that comes out, I'm not nervous about flying.
It was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Because I had just said
kind
that
of
I
a
wasn't going to
situation.
do it anymore. I think I'm going to make this into like an artistic photo set.
Did you did?
Oh, it was a highlight.
Christy didn't do it. A brilliant combo. I mean, sure.
Oh, it was. It was kind of. It was a little bit more hit or miss. It was.
We patched.
That worked.
Yeah, that was great.
And
The taking of photos.
no. That was so.
That you've never been to. He was particularly sensitive to it and was being.
Had was so great there, and while in Sydney. Well, as someone who has not been drinking.
I was at point blank range with some koalas, and they smell funny, but that's still not. I know I'm not doing it right.
Because I feel like my sensitivities or my sensibilities have been that we don't use. There's a part of us that gets into this type of thing. Something, make it better.
We're going to devote precious Tonight Show minutes to gushing about break now, but when we come back, we're going to have more math.
And then I turned to I guess it was ES.
I could never have expected.
No idea what we were doing.
Yeah, I'm not completely clueless, but
but
I said, and then lo and behold,
then was understated the way the host would shorten things in general, even though
couldn't make the connection with the landscape that was
there was
actually.
abomination. What has happened?
All the collateral flipped the switch too.
I think it is a superior system, and I'm not just saying that because I want.
You overcame your fear, and then 2 days later, I overcame my fear and I swam.
The system that they have established, absolutely loved it. I have a little bit of a complaint with my beard. It's like I don't get a good seal, so I.
But it takes from Melbourne. You're going further around.
One to.
Not even get into that.
Yeah,
So cool.
Well, there's like this. I had this
combined.
thing for nooks. We did.
But they weren't having to turn it into toilet. It's what we aspire. I'm in the shade because I don't like to sit in the sun. I'm cool with it. I mean, I knew Christy would not want to do that. So like,
you never know if the
island. I really
It
must
was
have
like
gone
a-
7 wide. Or
yes,
something.
a 7 wide fat horse.
But
sled.
now
maybe day 2.
sign up for. But next summer, we're gonna take a long vacation. I remember we.
Absolutely, it's beautiful me or something like that.
I think it was related to. Half of us jumped out, and then they told us all to scramble back into the boat because we had to go to a different. They don't know how to appreciate it.
Yeah, you kind of have to just.
That's all that matters. Mission accomplished. You guys fell through wide, and like said, you want to go snorkeling. And they took us this special. I hit a speed bump trying to figure this out, but every
tea, almost exclusively tea. Cities. I mean, there's 24 million people in Australia. The majority.
I didn't see
Guys who spent a little under 2 weeks there. We know enough to come to a definitive counseling.
building up this great thing about Nooks are dedicated to shooting a reef.
Yeah.
Very rough to get out. Big sized.
I gotta say, it was
They call Brisbane Brizzy, and they call breakfast Brecky.
my favorite vacation. Favorite place that I've ever visited.
Pleasant, doesn't it? I'm gonna have those for the rest of my life now. No, but
I think it's a little opinion, and you have to
I think the point on the bridge climb, the guy's taking photos all along, but
highly recommended if you're gonna. That I don't know anything about it, but they just start hiking up the island, and we're just going through the palm trees, and then go.
not to be confused with Granny Lube, Australia, the greatest place on earth.
Oh.
And
what was because
I doubt it too, but my wife told me.
All the toilets that
I had a ball. And you could anywhere you fell, you'd
right from the beginning of the trip because but it wasn't like a highlight of the trip.
It was a highlight, man. I mean,
I had to stay home with him the next day.
Yeah, the next day
you guys took the trip.
The next day we did it back. 5 full days in feet. Yeah.
Congratulations.
On that
get over it.
Forget I even said that.
Well,
like trying to calm him down, and then I'm like right in his face, and I'm like, Lando, you're gonna be okay.
Think about which one he is though, in the way that they have the engineering degrees that we still have, because there's not a whole lot of people that are like living in the middle.
Is there kind of a thing?
Yes.
I'm not going to say they got a great sense of humor, but I will say that they seem to find us fun. Plugged into it.
I think it has something to do with being descended. You got our general impressions for Australian rules football.
Worse.
Well, no.
So you didn't even learn your lesson.
No, this time or packing right before the last minute. That's enough to put me in.
Well, with our families in tow.
They're beautiful places that I've ever been.
Took a real boring walking tour right when we got there. So ironically. And you were talking about your thing, but also, I thought you were going to say, ironically, that's where you can stay. That's all. That's the extent of the island. I need to get some.
Sure, man. The guy on the commercial's Australian.
But what? This is why this is my fault?
No, because I said those places, but we did not really anticipate the level of connection that the
restrooms were, because everywhere we went, especially in Brisbane when we were like walking down the river.
The snorkeling to such a degree, we
had never snorkeled.
Yeah, it was, and she got her leg up
because we are cool. We're gonna take a commercial break.
Think about it, you unplug it, and it's just like they go somewhere, right?
Well, make it about food. If you're into art, yeah.
And so she's volunteered to take. And again, this is or math Australian TV, and get a taste of it.
Little cultural orientation.
Yeah, come probably saving cents on the dollar because of it to build the argument for us.
It wasn't.
So I'm sitting.
I'm plastered all over Instagram.
Shout out.
Which wasn't that long because it was choppy. But he didn't go back in the boat.
He didn't go back in the boat.
And I was like,
worth it. Totally worth it. Thank you. Kind of like the two sides companies. Of Twix. No, it's like left and right Twix. We sell both at mythical.store.
They're the same.
Particular about photos. And I know exactly what you want in your photo. I know how.
Mascot wear. And I'm like, signs, okay, whatever. I keep throwing your family kids everywhere. You go to a bar and you can order chicken parm.
Oh my gosh!
And
you're not going to believe it.
Was not planned by the architect, but south. I think I got my cardinal directions correct. In this small little theater, and it was amazing.
Continuing on in one line, and I was like, "What is happening?" They didn't just have the blade.
They had them all.
They had holes. They had air holes. Americans who have not. We haven't traveled extensively.
It was peak.
And I was like, I told you, I was like, this is the best.
Make it about
their anxiety in the same way, not familiar with it. All I'm saying is that I was taking a picture with her and she really.
Seeing the photos that you took, and there were. I didn't even see that.
As a man who shaves. Because in one sense, and stuff like that. Small crimes.
Because stuff like that, they would.
Rotation.
Right.
But of course, you can't be the one that says anything about it.
Photo in front of the apostles. It's so beautiful. Break out the lube.
The cranny lube.
Right.
I keep
on the beaches ever. Especially over there and just browse around. We also have an Amazon store.
And they were analyzing it. But so just for a perspective, didn't matter the cost. It didn't matter the level of the place that you went. It won't keep anything from you. If we're going to do so.
Full of
electricity. Half the country there. And people I just want you to know.
In a little bit. Because we haven't even got to Fiji. I mean, this is...
Fiji. Hey, we're just animals. As soon as I get through security, my heart... There were like 4 tour with everybody, and then we were on a bus with, 20 other... to do anything.
Picture, man.
Just do a selfie or get a stranger.
Get a stranger.
Get a stranger. Lively crowd that stayed engaged. Oh, they got that joke, and they got that joke, and they were there all the way to the...
Wilson paid for that.
I don't know. It was a different time. Anyway, so big, and it has to be a big cranny for me to get
upset at each other.
The display of your...
It does go the other way.
Well, the reason I didn't note it, and still doubt whether or not it's true...
Say, thank you to all of you mythical beasts down. Your brothers and sisters, I went to the restroom a lot.
I have this anxiety, and I'm not typically most controversial Instagram photo ever posted to the Rhett and Link account based on the number of...
Was that Aboriginal information?
I absolutely
told me that last night when I was like, what are some of the highlights?
immediately. We're all wearing like water shoes, you know, like reef shoes. And
She couldn't.
she's just a squirrel.
As long as the composition is good and you don't parent me,
Other people.
I'll apologize for that part of it.
You told me that.
Are you sure that Dyson's from Australia?
Pretty sure. Look that up.
Can you verify that?
I'm pretty. It was a can't miss experience.
Sanctuary, and you could feed kangaroos. Just walk up to them and
Thing worse. Think about things or the
back to, and we didn't get to do that. So that's just a little pride. We jump in the ocean again, like weird,
like a musk.
like a eucalyptus.
I mean, at all places, but the first meal. And
Every time we stop,
I thought,
All right.
was she that happy to see you?
yeah,
Single possible issue. That's the way we handle things in America.
in a situation,
That actually sounds like a great fragrance.
but it is not.
We take a picture with furries
And I'm like,
about the mythical beast.
it's got some of the same stuff, some different stuff. Oh man, it'll surprise of what our relationship. The picture she took was a good picture.
I was like,
Screaming. That happens either way. We went into this. They called.
but the ironic thing is, we came back down and got that. Shout out to the Red glass. I thought, I thought
Amazing of our lives. Well, I don't know about you, but I know for
couples it's like
first,
yeah.
the original,
Mm-hmm.
way back in the day, featuring
I
fur.
always love the idea of and the Modriki they call it, or Monariki to the details. I'm not validating that. I'm not confirming that. I'm not
I'll
denying,
tell you this.
because they're gonna get bored or whatever. And I was like, listen, I don't know if we're ever gonna go back to this.
End his life at the top of the.
It's brought to you by this. This is the why he was actually sick, and that's why.
I never experienced furries
Well,
in person.
and you might hang because it's in somebody else's hands. If we're gonna
Nothing you can
freaking
do.
crash, it's. But I
Soda ear biscuits. That makes a stilts that are over the ocean water, but that's like Bora Bora. That's
and it was a bit of an experiment, bringing everybody along. We'll talk about the ins and the outs of having somebody who's always thought about how much they like nooks and crannies or islands.
I don't mean to complain because this is not a complaint. It's just an observation.
Yeah,
about
you can
that.
do that at Disney World. They can do that in Florida. That's where I'll do it.
Like get the rhythm of how.
Of Melbourne, and just the fact that every single experience we had photo set. But I don't know. This piece of meat it had a
The wallpaper on my phone. She's my screensaver. I literally had to take her.
I do have the power to get to the airport.
Share this episode.
Coffee, for most people, is this thing that is just station.
The drying.
Yeah. All agreeing with each other. You got a good point about that. Guy.
Listen and watch.
The world very extensively.
I love.
Tend to be, at least in America, like once you get into a place that is really for us to get our picture up there in the Will Ferrell,
Which you can hop on and off of for free.
and I
to get anywhere.
I knew about.
And I'm like, kids, gather around. Can somebody take our photo?
The whole harbor, the bay there, it is one of the most. What this was, it was like that.
And it wasn't
as the picture had been taken. She was just back to
Don't you ever do that. You do.
up, and we kept turning to
available channels.
this cranny.
When a big man,
Just wave like you're waving goodbye with the islands.
Islands
Like,
are my
if there's
absolute
like a
favorite thing.
long awkward pause.
it goes way down because
Right.
I don't care. Happens.
Good thing that there was like another 8 hours in the trip.
No,
'cause
I mean,
could bring me to the verge of tears, but it did.
yeah, it seems boring and like,
Surprise you.
oh man, it'll surprise you.
Thanks for support.
It just kind of feels like there's so much here. I really don't know exactly what to do.
It wasn't as distinct shot
There
there,
was a
but
couple of places that looked like candidates, but
breaded it up. They've made chicken parmesan.
and you might be like, okay. Usually it's the mouth open, and I like to get pictures of that and post it on my Instagram. But then when I saw him,
It's not better in Australia.
no,
It's
you
the
cut
same.
it. You cut it off. It stays in the wall.
Oh, you're saying you cut it at one.
Sounds like you're setting up a
It was a-
juxtaposition.
It was a milestone.
It doesn't work quite as well, does it?
No. I wonder if
Can't stay down as long. Whatever. But you guys were because we knew we were gonna go.
there's nothing on that island. I mean, you
It's like, I don't know. It's cool.
because that's my idea. You know, it's like we're up here having.
By the creates this unknown response that you're gonna get in the
Mhm.
moment, and going up into the woods and then up to the top of the island as far as we could get. That's what you can learn from
You're
Australia.
gonna steal something really.
Don't miss an episode. Follow the links in the description. World-class YouTubers up in the house right now.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I said she'd been crying, and then
Which did in such pristine waters.
But like I on my Instagram, although I do tag your account, you're welcome, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I do.
And I thought that you were like, I got into the water.
But then he turned toward the boat, and he just
From petty criminals.
well, it's safety.
Let's think about that.
It's safe. Conscious about speaking loud, because I was like
From the boat, just
I ain't bragging. I'm just stating.
and then I was like, I got it.
First of all, that's a misuse of the term. No, I was asleep. It fit it, and I'm glad we
45
definition.
degrees.
Yeah, the two devices that want to subscribe.
Thanks for being here. Over the South Pacific, over all these beautiful maybe somebody who's been to Australia, maybe an Australian, maybe if
This place on earth,
Is
as far
it-
as we're concerned. I'm really interested in food. I mean, anywhere if you trip and fall, you'll land.
this is one data point. This is one point.
What if you got the generic Wilson sold by Spalding?
We don't keep anything.
It's great. We've been a lot, but we did a food walking tour, which was great, but we did it on the last made it.
Now you're thinking about
Because
my butthole when
you
you
miss
hear about
a much more narrow street, which
intention to return.
in the meantime, use hash.
Vastness and the freedom and the fact that we were the only ones there
Yeah.
all made it incredible. It's an operation that they've been doing this for a while, and they've got that. As we were there, I was like, this will be funny. People will think that it's funny, and I keep a
It's like you stay in this hut.
You see
and then
these
you walk onto the
postcards though.
beach.
You like paddle that Tom Hanks used on his raft in the bar in the place. No TVs, no internet.
Wonderful wife had a great. I had almost an existential experience snorkeling over.
You've got Will Ferrell and basically almost every actor.
Some islands, and then we went to.
I haven't used that term in a long time, so maybe you know that she doesn't. So I'm the one I'm like the quintessence.
You'll get to 12 Apostles, which
16-hour flight. You're
from LA.
There was really nothing to see.
Nothing to
see. It was kind of cloudy. It was a little too deep, and
except everyone else watching land. See my suit, guys.
Yeah, Link is now a furry. You'll never know.
Especially on the side of the island where we were
Australia being the greatest place on earth. I think it's a superior system.
Luxuriating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
restaurant, but it's just like up there, and it says Tom Hanks paddle from Castaway 2000.
and if kids, a number of things that we wanted to go back.
Like the help me and restaurants.
I wonder
Mostly
if the
airport
hairdryer.
being critical, and I don't know how
Yeah.
America got to a place where
We got to get to the airport. I get that.
yes.
What can I do to help?
Well, next time.
I've heard of furries. I saw an episode of CSI.
What I communicated to her.
Do like an off-roading thing.
Yeah, well,
Like I want
and
us
also
to
I'd
do
like
a
to-
race with him.
we tweeted and we Instagrammed ending, and we're like, ha, 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 ha.
So
I we show up and I see all these pictures and I'm like, okay, these pictures on the internet, and I'm just like, I mean, we've been to Hawaii.
yeah, I was really thinking about you.
It really offended. Well, and she looked at me and she may have.
I said, well, me and the kids got together, and they too much condescension. I'm gonna try to use this an accent because I don't want to insult my favorite.
About these things, and just an acknowledgement that I am concerned about getting to the airport on time.
No, I think that's the only thing
Yeah.
they saw. It took 30 minutes to go. It was dark, so it was hard to tell exactly what we passed.
Some monolithic cliff that began to be eroded down.
I always have a crisis of conscience about what I'm thinking, if I like them or not. Like I really love the place, so there was a little bit of panic at the beginning. We get back in, and then the instructor reiterates he didn't respond.
Yeah, he did not. Just pushing their way into that hairdryer.
And they're on the tip.
And the hairdryer,
They're at the tip
it's got
of
a
the-
switch. A little man came up and
I mean, if we're talking about restrooms,
it sucked it straight down. There was but that was why I'm cursed.
Get a kick out of it.
And then I use the okay. Interesting tidbit about this.
Thank you. So, I mean, how am I supposed to put stuff on my own Instagram account if I'm sleeping?
ESPN or their equivalent of ESPN and mythical best.
Let's get into just our overarching. It's really hard to
Significant things, and you don't want to rough them up with paper towels. You want
act up or get too rambunctious. They take it down. And
All
what is
exists.
it?
me and Jesse and I were arguing, and it was like I was trying to open. We her Instagram. She posted a picture of us, a family picture.
Some sort of
You have to disagree.
sharp opinion.
You have to have a strong.
I'm not even just talking about the tour component. I'm just talking about every
swirl.
restroom that you went to. And let me tell you,
Because if you had, it's from Australia.
yep.
But listen,
so if you're one of the next day we were there, and it actually became very frustrating because we found
on my list, Australia is my favorite place on earth.
it was my favorite place, and
Then thinks it's a keyhole.
well, then that kid deserves it.
Ultimately, I think that it
All
is a
of-
situation, but we actually
Too late.
made some progress because really set those expectations.
It's amazing, and then the way that they developed, he'd take a knee,
And
like why is Shepard taking a knee? Chicken, and they've schnitzeled it out.
he got off that boat.
It doesn't always work out.
I think that the
Starbucks, like in the past year or so, I think
because it was a squirrel, I didn't mind. Maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe that's that secret
I do
to
think
freedom.
that's what it is.
We traveled around the U.S. pretty extensively, but not.
Eating up on stuff. The past 2 summers were you're plugging in your phone charger, and then you're plugging in your phone.
But I think there's at some point.
Just because it was just easy to come up with something.
Who cares? Who cares if my wife puts her knee?
Trying to talk him back into being calm, and then all of a sudden he's like, I could just see it's a beautiful place.
Well, I've been smiled this beautiful trip, vacation,
3 weeks.
because it is something.
Trains,
they had a
but they were like
specific name for them. It
like
wasn't a trolley.
Tram cars or something.
That's what it takes for you. You
Every
got to
little-
climb to a freaking. Up, everybody! We got to get there. We're flying on Wednesday.
We're talking to Fallon.
Yeah,
We're like, we're gonna probably, I don't know. You can't hike around that island with the way.
conclusion as to whether or not Australia is the greatest place on.
Yeah, I think so.
You sure she didn't forget?
On the route, you can't change order because you're literally latched in an order.
Right. And so, but we got through it, and by the time, I mean, first of all,
And they both feel like you were parenting her, is how she
leave it, and so I
say.
and we've never been on the
Over a year of planning, and then
on is the island where they filmed the movie Castaway. Well,
starring Tom Hanks.
there's a hose of electrons that they got it right. The audience would be like,
Good Matt. She was so
Hook lube and cranny
That's
lube.
the secret.
and we said or something. I don't know what.
Television.
Oh gosh, Australian television. When I was
Wasn't the waves crashing on a level.
no,
All
maybe
I'm
not. Like it seems like a newscaster.
when we left the island on the way,
Was it a nice restaurant?
asking us to bring it down to the under.
Hmm.
You should have.
Also, my youngest son got sick. You remember that part?
Yeah.
Summer, so we can like experience the beach. And because it's the greatest place. Listen, we've been back well over a week. But I'm going to say that I've been to some incredible places.
I react cause I don't have no talent. I react, it's easy, takes no effort. I react and barely show emotion. I react, when I do I found a motive. I react cause I don't have no talent. I react, it's easy, takes no effort. I react and barely show emotion. I react, when I do I found a motive. Easy getting fame these days since you do not need any talent. People try to take me down, but too bad there ain't no repellent. Divide myself count by 10, it'll get the IQ of all my viewers. Of all my viewers who are too retarded to watch real YouTubers. My vids contain of adding a little fucking cam screen, which 10-year-olds enjoy cause they don't have their own opinion. They're stupid and my minions got me over 1 million. This is the age of YouTube, no talent equals millions. Getting paid, get paid for nothing. If you're watching this right now, just turn on your cam. All you need is a fake smile to get them views and get all this money. Thank God that the world's retarded. I react cause I don't have no talent. I react, it's easy, takes no effort. I react and barely show emotion. I react, when I do I found a motive. I react cause I don't have no talent. I react, it's easy, takes no effort. I react and barely show emotion. I react, when I do I found a motive. It's so amazing you can grow up people's content. Lazy life, I got it like this my fucking job, bitch. Resume on fleek, on your salary in 1 week, cunt. And it's not only me, cunt. No, there's 100 more cons. Yeah, all I do is lay back, react to trending topics. Still I'm the trending topic. Then react to my own vids and get 1 million more hits. Thank the Lord I got rich by all these stupid kids. I react cause I don't have no talent. I react, it's easy, takes no effort. I react and barely show emotion. I react, when I do I found a motive. I react cause I don't have no talent. I react, it's easy, takes no effort. I react and barely show emotion. I react